Hey, it's Kevin Garland again, and yesterday I posted a video about all the parts that I'm going to be using for this Stratosurfer build I'm building for a customer. Well, today, as you see, I got started on the build. Again, it really did not take me long to get to this point. Probably took me about a good 30 minutes of work just to get to this point. So, again, it doesn't really take long to assemble one of these and get it flying with a cube autopilot. Um, just the way it's set up, there's hardly any no soldering involved unless you want to change your battery connectors. But let me go ahead and kind of walk you through what I've done so far. So I've installed the Autopilot where I told you I was going to install it yesterday, and again, it is facing backwards, and it's mostly facing backwards for a reason. It's just to make it easier access to all these connections here. The only tricky one that's kind of hard to get to, but you're not always unplugging and plugging this in all the time, is the power connection down here for the power module, but it's really not that hard to install. And then in the front, of course, we have the servo rail where we'll be plugging all the servos in. Here we have our I2C split board, which is connected to the I2C port of the Autopilot. I replaced the GPS cable, which I put away the old one that came with the stock here cable. I replaced it with a longer one that runs through the fuselage and plugs into the Autopilot itself. And it's just held on by the stock foam 3M sticky piece that is supplied with the here GPS unit. No mods back here on the airframe to make this work. It just simply plug and play. My speaker, the annoying speaker that everyone hates, I mounted it back here. It is still useful for this Autopilot. I feel like that's why I installed it. They did something new on the newer versions of these Autopilots. When they first came out with these, they used to not have a USB extension, but now what they have done is this USB port here has your buzzer and your USB extension, which I have it sticking out the front here. As you can see, I do have my USB cable plug in. So that makes it easier, because before I had to custom wire make a USB extension to go from the Autopilot up to the front, because where the USB plug-in is down in here on the Cube Autopilot, and it's doable, but it's a pain to try to get a plug in there. So that this really helps out for when you want to do any programming with the airplane. Plugged into the I2C board, we also have the airspeed sensor, which is mounted right here, just using double sticky back tape that was supplied with the Autopilot. That stuff works amazingly well. There's no worries about this coming off. Here's the pitot tube mount. I went ahead and glued it together and installed the, this is a vector pitot tube, so I installed that on the airframe. All it is 2 screws holding the mount to the airframe, so this can easily come off and back on for shipping purposes. And of course you would unplug the 2 lines here. The good news is it doesn't matter which one you plug in where, because it will automatically figure out which one's pitot and which one's static. So there's a feature in the Autopilot software that automatically detects which one is doing what. You do have to make sure in the parameter list that it is set to, I believe it's auto or something like that in the parameter list. I think it's defaulted like that, by the way. The ESC for the aircraft, I have it plugged in and installed. It's down there. It's hard to see it, but it's in between the wood and the plastic piece. I've never had an issue of it overheating being down there, considering there is an air vent here that forces air down the fuselage. So I've never had a problem with these overheating. With the ESC, I have the power module plugged in. So this is where you'll plug your battery in right here into the power module, and then of course this cable is plugged into the power cable of the aircraft. So I haven't cleaned anything up in the inside. Usually what I like to do is get all the wires ran and untangled, of course, and then go through and tie everything down and make it neat in the inside. I also just want to make sure everything works before I tidy everything up and go fly it. So that's the state that it's in. I still have to install the RFD 900 in the front here, along with the antennas, which usually I will drill out a hole on the side of the fuselage for one antenna to stick out this way, and then one antenna will stick out into the front of the fuselage here. I also need to mount the receiver for the radio, and I usually mount it back here, and it will be mounted back there with just one line ran to the Autopilot, which is via S-Bus. And of course, I still have to install the rudder and elevator, but that's pretty easy to do, and run the 2 lines that run down the fuselage. Again, that's a good quick 5-minute job there. And then also install the wings and the motor pods. But when I get it to this point, I like to kind of go straight towards the computer using Mission Planner and start programming the Autopilot. Now, a lot of this stuff's already taken care of on my end because I have a parameter file that I just load, and once I load the parameter file to this aircraft, it's ready to go. But I kind of will walk you through some things I do check when I do start up a new airplane. For one, most likely, since this Autopilot has not been booted up yet, it probably has a form of quadcopter code on there. So the first thing we need to do is upload plane code onto this Autopilot. So the way we'll do that is I do have my USB port plugged in to the USB port of the Autopilot. We'll come down here to Mission Planner. I have it open up. I believe this is the latest version of Mission Planner. I'm not 100% sure. It didn't ask for an update when I opened it up. But we'll wait to plug in the port. What you want to do is go to Initial Setup up at the top. And then, of course, we're an airplane, so you want to select the plane one. And you also want to be connected to, make sure you're connected to the internet as well. And it says, are you sure you want to update plane 4.05 official? Just hit yes. Failed to detect port to upload to. So what we'll do is we'll come down here and plug in the USB port. And we'll let that boot up. You'll most likely hear the sounds. This is the first time plugging in this Autopilot, so we'll see what she does. So it looks like we just need to upload firmware to it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're plugged in. We'll hit plane code. Are you sure? We'll hit yes again. We are a cube black, and we're getting the firmware from here, so we will hit upload. So it's now downloading from the internet. And actually, this is actually new to me. Must be a later version of the Autopilot, but it's actually, usually you have to unplug and plug back in, but it's going ahead and actually uploading it. So this is actually new to me, but again, this is a newer serial number Autopilot that I ordered. So it takes about a minute to do this process. While that's doing that, as you can see, I have the RFD 900s to still mount to the aircraft, and I also have the receiver for the radio to mount to the aircraft. So I finally finished. It says, please wait for the musical tones to finish before clicking OK. You just heard the noise, and those are about the only noises that you're going to hear. Once you hear those noises and they've gone away, you'll just click OK. And at that point, you'll come up to your COM port here, and you will select, for me, it will be COM 29. Yours will be different, but you just want to make sure it says USB serial device, COM 29. Hit that, and then hit connect, and we will connect to the Autopilot. This does take a second for the first time to load all these parameters from the Autopilot to the computer. All right, so since we have that up, we'll go to our flight data here. Looks like we already have GPS and all that's good to go. We're now an fixed wing aircraft. So what we're going to do now, when you get one of these airplanes from me, is you'll go to config and tuning. You don't have to load the parameter file, but let's just say you made some changes from my program and you want to revert back. All you have to do, and this is all I do for new aircraft, is I just go load from file. I'm going to find my file here, which is desktop and Stratosurfer and KG Aviation param file. You will hit me. I'm just going to keep hitting yes for all these. Some of these are just because the parameter files from an older build, and this is a newer build. Now, one thing that is different is AHR's orientation is 4, and the reason why is because it's a yaw 180 degrees from my AHR's orientation, because I do have them mounted backwards. A few other differences here. Arming using rudder is set to 2, so that with the rudder you can arm and disarm the aircraft. This is my airspeed sensor pin. I will be using airspeed, so I want that to be 1. I use auto tune level 8. 5, 6, 7 also works. Battery monitor selection, kind of keep scrolling down here. A few of these are just things that just doesn't matter for right now. Compass information, of course that's going to be different per aircraft. Compass orientation, this is the other for your compass. Again, since they're mounted backwards, you have to select 4 to yaw 180 degrees. And then compass orientation 2, that's also 4. Now, one thing I do need to do is enable my third IMU here, because that's not on my save param, I've noticed. So I'm going to go to EK2 underscore IMU and mask. So it is set to 7. Oh, so I do have it enabled on my aircraft. I did not think I had that enabled for all 3 IMUs to be working. I thought it was just set to 2. So that's good. So we will backspace that out, see all our params, and I'm going to hit write params. Everything was good. Now what I like to do is do a reboot of the autopilot after I sent this, because I changed the orientation. So we'll simply unplug it and then plug back in. And then I'll select. All right, so now, since I have that taken care of, a few things you notice. My airspeed's over here. If I were to plug the pitot tube, my airspeed's gonna go up. Unplug, plug the pitot tube. So airspeed's working. If I pitch the aircraft up, aircraft goes up, roll left, roll right, and then pitch down. And then we have yaw to the left, and yaw to the right. Now, if airspeed was not working, or if you have not set up your airspeed sensor yet, you simply go to initial config, or initial setup, and optional hardware, and then do airspeed, and then you want to select use airspeed, and then select the airspeed sensor that you're using. Same thing for your radio setup. Your radio setups will be on this window, and then your battery monitor setup. You will want to make sure you select the right battery monitor setup for the one that you're using. So that's it for today. I figured I'd do a quick video how to get started with a Cube Autopilot. As you can see, it's not that hard. I know I didn't go over all the other little steps here and there of getting this set up, because I already had this one, a parameter already saved for this aircraft. However, I hope to in the future to come out with videos that describe step by step of how to get one of these aircraft going from the start. Thank you and have a good day.